Wizards announced that they're reprinting fetches. And Star City Games has them up for $25 to $19. This really is the end of the world. Take my money. Just take it. Just take it. Take it, Wizards. It's all yours. It's all yours. There you go. Enjoy. No, but really, though. Alright? Take for half a second to realize that Star City Games is pre-selling fetch lands for up to $25. I mean, tops $25. We're talking $19 to $25 here. That's crazy. This is crazy news. Okay? I would be so... I made a bet that the fetches won't drop below 20, and I'm still sticking to it. I made that bet with the Greendale human being up on MTG Salvation. And if I lose, I have to send him some fetch lands. But whatever, that's fine. I've got a couple extra, so okay. But the fact of the matter is that if we're looking at fetches being reprinted, P.S. the Onslaught fetches, if you haven't caught up with the news, this is big. I mean, it changes the meta up a little bit. Most definitely changes the meta up a little bit. But it also means that Modern is about to be flooded with people coming in trying to play more Modern. Now that they might have access to shock lands and fetch lands. You've got your mana base reprinted, basically, and it's incredibly cheap right now. So what I'm going to do with this video is the first part of it's going to just talk about Modern as a whole with the fetches being reprinted, the Onslaught fetches, I mean, that is being reprinted. And then I'm going to talk more about Zoo, because some of you guys are probably just here to hear about what I would do with Zoo right now. But I think it's first more important to talk about Modern as a whole. So if you don't care about the Zoo bit, you can just cut off the video at the end of that. But here's what I think about Modern as a whole getting the fetches. First thing you got to know is that there's going to be a ton more people flooding in. Now, if a ton more people are flooding in, even before going into what kind of decks they're going to be playing or anything, it's just that Modern is going to be getting more popular, be getting more people showing up, and they're going to be porting their standard decks into Modern more often. You're talking Mono Green Devotion, Mono Black Devotion, Mono Blue Devotion, X Color Devotion. More or less, they're just going to be taking whatever deck they like and bringing it to Modern. So in the future, whatever standard decks will start becoming into existence, that will be a modern, maybe slightly buffed version is what you're going to be seeing. So you're going to need to pay attention to the standard metagame a little bit here so you can know what randomly to expect at your Monday night Modern Magic. The next thing to talk about here is what new players generally like playing. One of the big things is Zoo is extra cheap now. In fact, you can play one-drop Zoo at this point with your shock lands and your $20 fetch lands. If we just say they're only 20 bucks, you can play Zoo for incredibly cheap here. The most expensive part of Zoo, one-drop Zoo, that's no Tarmogoyfs, would be Goblin Guides. Goblin Guides have gone up more in price lately, probably because of the rise of Red Deck Wins being Tier 1 in Modern. And if you're under the illusion that Red Deck Wins is not Tier 1 in Modern because you think it's a dumb deck, well, you better wake up. It's a real deck now with Echelon. But this means that you're going to be seeing a lot more Zoo. In fact, that's good for me because I like more Zoo players. I can talk to more people. Bad for me because I'm going to need to talk a lot about like basics of Zoo again. I'm probably going to need to make a whole port video from Standard to Modern again. But you can make one-drop Zoo for roughly $150 at this point. Mana base included, which is crazy. On MTG, I can only assume it's going to be even cheaper. And so you're going to be finding a lot of people playing that. You're also going to be finding a lot more people playing Red Deck Wins or Burn. You've got most of the stuff is standard that you can buy right now. And what's not standard is commons. A lot of commons except for, again, Goblin Guide. So you're going to be facing a lot of aggro regardless of what deck you're going to be playing. You're going to be facing Red Deck Wins a lot more. You're also going to be facing a lot more Zoo. You are not going to be facing any more Jund or Rock than you normally would. Why are you not going to face any more Jund or Rock than you normally would? They already have their fetch lands. They don't care. This helps them out maybe. Jund maybe runs one Bloodstained Mire. Rock maybe runs one Windswept Heath. But it's really not a big deal. Here's a big thing for just to cue you in, all you Jund players, if you're thinking about it. it doesn't matter. This one really doesn't matter very much for you. Jund does not really run any basic mountains, nor does it really care about getting its basic mountains. So the Bloodstained Mire is not going to matter whatsoever. The Windswept Heath is a little bit of bigger news for the Rock players because they can get their Lingering Souls off a little bit easier. The Path to Exile is a little bit easier. But again, the most important fetch land for them was Verdant Catacomb, and they already have it. It does not make Jund a lot better. It makes Rock a little better. It makes real junk. Now we're talking Knight of the Reliquary here, like Doran junk. It makes that deck a lot better. But realistically, they've already had the fetch that they need, and they've got other things to do the jobs anyways, so it doesn't really matter. It's not a huge buff to them. However, it is a huge buff to control decks. I've been saying this is the dawn of time, and either no one's believed me, or no one really cares. There's no real good way to test it, but Cruel Control is a thing now. So is Esper. Your reasoning for running American Control was twofold. American Control will allow you to have access to Lightning Bolt, which arguably is the best card in the modern format. I don't even think you could argue, but arguably it's the best card in modern format. It also saves you against a lot of other decks, a lot of combo-based decks, because a lot of combo-based decks in Modern happen to be creature-based, so it lets you have a little bit more interaction. Modern is much more of a creature format than Legacy is, and because of that, it needs to have a little bit more answers, and because in Black and White you have less answers to 1 mana cost answers to creatures, you went more towards American Control. But the other big reason, this is not a really known thing, but the other big reason happens to be greed. These decks, Esper and Grixis Control, were the greediest control decks in existence. In fact, anyone who played any amount of Grixis Control, a lot of people will say Grixis Control was unplayable because you don't have like the same Path to Exile, same Restoration Angel Source spells, Sphinx's Revelation, etc., etc. They'll also say that Esper's unplayable because you don't have access to Bolt. No, those two decks will tell you the reason why they're unplayable is their mana base. They have a crappy mana base. I mean, to an extent where they started splashing green so that they can use, They can start using Loom, Life from the Loom, in order to rebuy their fetches, the good ones that they need, in order to correct their mana base. That's on Gifts sort of control over there. But on Grixis, it was just because they had a greedy mana base. I mean, you're looking at trying to do a turn 1 Bolt, into a turn 2 Terminate, into a turn 3, what is it, Murder, or whatever it's called. The one that kills Planeswalkers. Yeah, Murder. And, no, not Murder. Hero's Downfall. Boom, got it. Hero's Downfall into a turn 4, snap into those things, into, maybe a turn 5 Cryptic. It's crazy. The mana base was awful. Awful. And a lot of times, they would get up to 7 lands and be able to cast Cruel Ultimatum, and then realize they just don't have the correct amount of mountains, forests, and mountains, swamps, and islands. They just don't have the correct amount, and they can't cast it. Or they need to, dance around a little bit. That's why Batterskull was so good for them as a win con, because it was colorless. So this deck it's a real deck now, and if we're just going to start seeing things like Esper Fae, which, yes, they are. If you're not playing Esper Fae now, you're an idiot. You get access to Lingering Souls to buy you time, as well as getting access to Gifts Ungiven out of the sideboard tech in order to actually play your Unburial Rights into Elshnor or Iona. That solves a lot of your sideboard problems. You just tie that in. Even against aggro decks like Affinity, that can be a win con for you. That's a very, very viable path to winning. Not to mention Gifts Ungiven's a good card anyways, even if you're just using it as using it. You are going to see more Esper Fae. You're going to see probably a lot more Esper Fae, personally. You're going to see a lot more, You're going to see a lot more Cruel Control. Grixis Control in general, maybe not Cruel, but I think Cruel is probably your best path if you're going to go with that. You're going to see more Esper Control. And Esper Control will probably end up being Gifts Control. But you still have access to a lot of things, Lingering Souls, a lot of good answers. In fact, it should be noted that Esper and Grixis are not like American Control. They don't want to just they don't want to play a controlled tempo game, which American Control ended up playing a tempo-esque game sometimes. They don't want to play that. They want to play the actual control game where they're going to control the board and what's in your hand and everything, and then eventually kill you with it. That's what they're going to go after. And they have a better late game than not. I think this is good for the modern format as a whole. People will get worried that it's breaking the balance, but it's honestly not. The balance was already broken with any amount of fetch lands. It's just now some more honest decks could actually keep up there with the combo decks or the unfair decks. And with that, if you've got more control coming in, Esper Fae, Esper Control, and also Grixis Control, then you're going to be seeing a little bit of a downtick in combo in response. You will see more of an uptick in things like Blood Moon decks, we're talking real Blood Moon decks here, not Blue Moon, which, by the way, has become like Rug in its latest iteration. So you'll see that. You'll see a lot of fairer decks get a little bit more strength. You'll see more Zoo, most definitely, as the biggest thing holding Domain Zoo back was its mana base, and now it's got a better mana base that can actually justify being Domain Zoo. You'll be seeing more just Zoo in general because it's got a strong enough core. The whole thing is just a strong deck now. And you'll be seeing more Zoo and a lot more aggro decks in general because you'll be seeing more of a downtick in combo with the rise of these control decks, and you might actually see more tempo because of it too. I think this is a very healthy thing. There's a lot of people who are worried that this is going to put, again, Jund or combo decks over the edge because now they have a perfect mana base, and I don't think it is. It didn't really matter prior, and I don't think it really matters very much now. Jund still was very strong because its main colors were black and green, so it really doesn't matter so much. Now, I also want to note what this is going to do to the format as well, is it's going to make Blood Moon decks worse. It's actually, weirdly enough, it's going to promote a little bit more greed in the modern format, but it will also, fetch lands, one of the best things you can possibly do with fetch lands is not crack them, and then if you need to crack them for a basic, crack them for a basic. And that's actually going to make Blue Moon a worser deck. It's going to have things like, even against Zoo, where it had a really good matchup, it's going to probably be a break-even matchup now because Zoo's going to be able to crack for its white and its green very, very easily now. And because of that, it's going to become a much worse matchup for them. That's not only them, but also they don't like control so much, like real control, because they spend a lot of time hoping their lock will lock someone out of the game, and since this buffs them, control's not going to be taking damage from their fetches, and they're not going to be having to go for wrong colors. It's going to make it a worser deck in general. I'm just going to put that out there. The other thing that this is also going to do, and this is a big one, is it's going to promote fetch bluffing. Now, fetch bluffing kind of was a thing in Modern, but not really. And it was a big thing in Legacy. So if you don't know what fetch bluffing is, let me tell you what it is. If I were to put down a Sacred Foundry, not a Sacred Foundry, excuse me, if I were to put down a Arid Misa, and then I were to follow it, and I'm not doing anything because I've got no turn one play. I'm probably a control deck, let's say, and I'm waiting for you to do something for me to react. So I've got no reason to break my fetch. In fact, I won't break my fetch because I'm probably going to get a basic with it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I'll put down like a Scalding Tarn. Now you know I'm on American colors, but you don't know what I'm playing. You don't know if I'm playing Twin, and you should be worried. You should, by turn 3, be leaving mana open for a Path to Exile because I'm on American Twin. You might not even know if I'm just like, if the Arid Misa is just an extra way for me to get to my shock lands, and I might just be on red-blue tempo. And if you decide to hold up your stuff, then that's giving me ample time to start really beating down with and finding the correct cards to tempo you out. You don't know if I'm on control, and you don't know actually what control I'm on. I could be on a control that has a splash, or I could be on straight blue-white. You don't really know. So in a nutshell, we might see an uptick more of control decks. We're going to see a lot more standard ports as new people try to flood in, and you're also going to end up seeing the same sort of rock decks. That's not going to change. Blue Moon's going to get a little bit worse. Fair decks are going to get better, and you're also going to see a lot more fetch bluffing. And a lot more basics probably showing up too. One last thing to note before we move on to the Zoo lists and show you what I'm doing with Zoo with this better mana base. my years of experience doing Legacy Zoo, is that you are also going to see maybe a reprint of the Zendikar fetches with it. Now, bear in mind, I'm just leaving this up to speculation, it hasn't been confirmed yet, that there are 20 slots open, well, 19 confirmed slots open, but 20 if you count Arid Mesa, which comes before Polluted Delta, in the name and number crunch for the card collector's number, for there to be more fetches. There was also sayings that there would be a cycle of block lands, and they wouldn't do an incomplete cycle, so that way block can cast any spells they want to and be as greedy as they want to. So we may also see a reprint of Zendikar fetches. If we do, Zendikar fetches probably will be cheaper than these Onslaught fetches because there will be more supply of them to meet the demand. You're also going to see that these Onslaught fetches will fall even further, probably down to $15, maybe $10, and I'll have to end up paying my bet because they'll just be so saturated in the market in 2 months from now, by January at least. And that's really good for the modern format in general. I don't have any complaints about it. He's a guy who owned all the fetch lands and bought them while they were still more expensive than you can pre-order them right now. I have no complaints whatsoever about this move. I'm going to do a brief overview of my most recent Zoo deck that I've been working on with the updated mana base. Then I'm going to throw you guys to Domain, Gruul, and mid-range Naya that I've been working on as well, and tossing in the updated mana base for each of them, or where I would start if I was going to experiment come this new block. And then I will go to one game of each of them. So here's just the quick rundown. I'm not going to go over everything. You guys know what Zoo is. 2 Gore Clan Rampagers so that I can have a little bit more game against Rock, 4 Goblin Guide for speed, 2 Grim Lavamancer to give me a little bit more game against some tempo game decks, mostly Delver. I also think it's pretty good to finish things off with combination of your bolts. It's also a 1-drop. I needed to fill out my 1-drops. 4 Curdape, 4 Night of the Relic Quarry. I'm back on Night of the Relic Quarry just because there's so much lingering souls now with Jund chilling around that Night of the Relic Quarry into Keswick Front is necessary. I've got Qasali Pride Mage because Qasali Pride Mage is very good utility, as is Scavenging Ooze. Both of them great utility. I use Scavenging Ooze basically Tarmogoyf number 5, 6. And Wild Noctail to finish it off with Tarmogoyf. Obviously, they're beaters. Your burn suits in my head is right now Lightning Bolt, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Lightning Helix, 3 Path to Exile. Yes, I did go down 1 Path to Exile. This is sort of to mimic the amount of paths that I used to use in Legacy. Most reason is because I've got Gore Clan Rampager to rampage over, as well as Grim Lavamancer for added utility, and my Knights are so huge that I'm not so worried about Path. Path, the only thing I'm worried about against is Wormcoil, and I've even got 1 on the sideboard, so it doesn't really matter. Land base, this is why you're all here. 4 Arid Mesa, this is not changed. You're still going to be using 4 Arid Mesa because this is more important in this type of deck. 1 Forest. 1 Keswick Front, I told you, as a utility. 1 Mountain, 1 Plains, 1 Sacred Foundry, 1 Sinjiri Steppe. The reason why I'm running Sinjiri Steppe here instead of something like Stirring Wildwood, Treetop Village, or Horizon Canopy is because there's enough removal going around in the format right now that I really want my Night of the Reliquary to survive or to make my Tarmogoyf survive. So fetching a Sinjiri Steppe has just always been fun for me. You can change it with whatever you want, whatever toolbox land you want, but I prefer Sinjiri Steppe currently. 2 Stomping Ground, 2 Temple Garden, 4 Windswept Heath, and 3 Wooded Foothills. This is generally the same setup you had in Legacy, where you're going to have 8 lands that you can fetch and 11 fetch lands, and the one that you're going to use a little bit less is Wooded Foothills, unless you're on more of a Gruul-esque approach, because, well, that's just, you need less red to get around Blood Moon is basically what it is. You really don't really need to get a basic mountain ever, but you do need to get basic forests a lot, and you do need to get basic plains a lot. In the sideboard, Hushwing Griff is good against twin decks, but it's mostly good against pod decks. Pod decks have gone down in amount of how much they see play. As such, I don't have as much Path to Exile, much but I've got Scavenging Ooze now in the main as well, so I don't need Graveyard Hate right away. Thrund comes out for a lot of control decks as well as a lot of Jund decks, anything that has a ton of removal. It's also pretty good against aggro. So Thrund is where I want to be at there. if I want to have a game of attrition. 3 Leyline of Sanctity, like I said, red deck wins is stupidly good. You need Leyline of Sanctity in your sideboard now. 2 Stony Silence, 1 Destructive Revelry to sort of catch my bases. 1 Path to Exile to make sure that I can side it against when I need more removal, also against things like Tron. 2 Vines of Vastwood to beat up on any decks that have removal, aka Jund or Junk or Ruck. And 2 Molten Rain as well to sort of help me out against Tron, Escape Shift, and the occasional really greedy control deck, as well as the rock decks. So I'm not going to filter these. If I lose the game, I lose the game, but I just wanted to show off the mana base, so I might as well. I'm going to also keep this because, weirdly enough, normally when I see a Plains in my hand, I'm like, oh god, I got a basic in my opening, I don't know if I can do this. But since I have a Wooded Foothills, I have access to any color I want, including red. So I've got the ability to actually kill off some of these guys' affinity. I think he's playing no affinity. That's the current trend in sort of affinity decks. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking my turn. Again, I'm going to want to put out my my Wooded Foothills. I'm probably going to end up cracking it for Stomping Ground. Got nothing that says that I shouldn't. I need green anyways, as well as red. So I'm going to go ahead and let him do some of his turn. I'm going to crack this for red, kill his Vault Scourge. I'm going to do it on my turn. This way I don't waste mana or time, since I've also got a Lightning Helix that I'm going to need to back up on it. Again, this perfect mana base is like fantastic. I'm going to put out a Plains and just pass the turn here. This way I can Helix whatever he decides to do with... or I could probably end up Helixing his... I think I'm just going to Helix it now. This way I can just stop him off of mana with that Springleaf Drum. And yep, did exactly what I hoped it was going to do, which was keep him off mana. Now I can do things like put down Tarmogoyf, which would be a 4/5, or I could put down Knight of the Reliquary, which I think I will end up doing here, because Knight will be a 4/4, so it's going to still be for the same amount of damage, but I'm also going to be more mana efficient. This way, if I draw a land, or I can use her to put out 2 Tarmogoyfs in 1 turn. Now I'm going to fetch for a basic, and I had Arid Mesa, so I can grab a basic mountain, or I can grab a basic forest. I'm going to grab basic forest. Oh, no, I can't grab basic forest. I'm on crack or something. I'm going to grab a basic mountain, because I got no reason not to. If I need to mana fix with my Knight of the Reliquary, I still can. But this way I'm a little conservative with my life total. But already I can tell you that this perfect mana base has helped me out tremendously. So my question here is whether I mana ramp and put out 2 Tarmogoyfs so I can just get more damage in next turn. And I think that's probably the best bet, although I'm still not using it to my full extent. Because I can swing here and then just put out the Keswick, or I could put out the Knight of the Reliquary. Otherwise, I could sack my Stomping Ground or my Plains and get out both Tarmogoyfs. However, if I do that, I end up with the correct amount of mana as well, plus this guy gets buffed. I think it's better in the long run to do that right now, especially since I can Keswick Wolf Run if I need to. So I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, because I don't think he can really dump any more in his hand. I'm just going to go ahead and float this, sack it. view my library, pull out a Windswept Heath, because I can do that now, and grab myself out a basic forest. And put out a Tarmogoyf, then back it up with yet another Tarmogoyf. So that makes my knight into a 6/6, and my Tarmogoyfs into 4/5s. Mim Knight comes into play. Let's make our cranial plating count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it gives 5 + 5 currently. So he has the ability to attach and swing for 5, but on the attack back, I can do a lot more damage. Plus, I've got the Gore clan to rampage over. And I do believe that even if he attaches it to like Mem Knight or something, I can still battle back here. Okay, that's fine. Steel Overseer is totally fine. We're going to be doing way more damage now. So that's 6. We got a Lightning Helix for it as well. Ha! But no white mana. I did screw myself out of white. That's fine. I'm just going to swing here. Let's see. If I swing here and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I win. All right. Sure. Sure. All right. That's good. I'm going to get 6 damage plus 4 plus 4. That's going to be 10, 14. I can rampage her over for another 4. That's 18. He doesn't block at all. And if he does block, I still rampage her over. So he can tops do 1. Then I can also bolt him on the next turn. So it's over. Yeah. Here we have Domain Zoo, and you'll find that the fetch lands are going to be eerily similar, but give it a second, let me talk about it, and you'll realize that it's actually pretty much better. 4 Arid Mesa, 4 Windswept Heath, 4 Woodfoot Hills. This is the same list as Pat Cox's list, more or less, because that's the guy who knows Domain the best. The only difference here is instead of all of his extra stuffs, we've got Windswept Heath and we've got Woodfoot Hills. Which is basically, it's just 4, 4, 4, and there you go. The thing is, his list is pretty much a Naya Zoo core with Snapcaster's Geists and Tribal Flames. That's it. It's a Naya Zoo core, though. You look at it, and I've added a couple things onto here, like Scavenger Use. But Curd Ape, Loom Lion, Wild Noctil, Tarmogoyf, it's all It's all Bolt, Helix, Path to Exile. This is all Naya Zoo core. The difference here is just obviously you've got a bunch of different shock lands that you can grab. The shock lands are all, I think, the correct shock lands. This would be the correct mana base I would use if I was going to play Domain Zoo. And if you look, you always want to get a turn 1 Steam Vent and a turn 1 Temple Garden. The difference with this list is that you can always get that. That's not an issue anymore. Like, it used to be you had to really think about it. You still need to think about what you need to grab, but you gotta, if you want by turn 2 to have white, green, and red, and blue, you still can get that. The difference here is if you had a Scalding Tarn, for example, versus a Wooded Foothills. Scalding Tarn can grab you Steam Vents. Yes. It can also grab you Hollowed Fountain. Yes. What it can't grab you is a Temple Garden. The difference here, however, is a Woodfoot Hill can grab you the kinds of mana that you need. It can grab you Temple Garden, and it can grab you Steam Vents. It can't grab you Hollowed Fountain. That's fine because you've got 8 different other fetches that can grab it. So you can do it. It's just there is a give and take. You don't really need as much access to blue as you might think. You need access to green more than any other color in this deck, as well as red and white, because obviously Bolt and Helix and Path. So those are the 3 main colors, and then it goes blue, and then it goes black. So you don't need to have Misty Rainforests. It's just not necessary. I would just stick with the 4/4/4. It's easy, it's good, and it does everything you need it to do. So without any more dancing around, let's go ahead and play out a game. I'm going to keep this hand. It's not the greatest hand in the world. It's basically land-filled, but it does have a Bolt that I can play, and it does have a Tarmogoyf. Alright, so he wants to be on the draw, which is fine with me. So what I'm going to do here is I got to think. I probably want a Temple Garden. This can grab me access to a Temple Garden, and it'll also grab me access to the... It can also grab me access to a, what do you call it, a Blood Crypt, which is fine. We're going to pass the turn here. No reason to keep a Bolt mana open, you know? Okay, Grataxian Probe, sure. I'm gonna guess this is Turbo Fog based off of him flipping out. Whatever. There you go, dude. Just means we're gonna need to apply as much damage as fast as humanly possible. Which this deck happens to be good at, so that's fine. Qasali Pride Mage is kind of a cool one. I'm going to wait. Well, I guess I don't have to. Tarmogoyf will be 2-3, and then on the next turn I can cast Bolt, which will make it bigger. So I guess we're going to go for Tarmogoyf here. Just go get our red in. And we'll cast the Tarmogoyf. And we'll swing for 2. Truthfully, he might, like, you know, fog me, which is fine. But this does mean that if he puts down a stupid, like, Lost in the Woods or something, I can kill it with Qasali Pride Mage. Plus, if he doesn't do anything, it could bolt him in the face. And that will get rid of some damage, plus make Tarmogoyf bigger. Gore Clan Rampager is kind of a nice draw here. In fact, I think I'm just going to bolt him in the face. And Rampager over. Don't grab that Rampager. There we go. Grab the Bolt. Bolt him in the face. Let me see what Holy Day did. I believe Holy Day stops combat damage. And he doesn't have whiteout. I mean, he made a mistake dropping this, so I'm not going to be douche. I'm going to swing here. If he decides to take the damage, I'll go ahead and Gore Clan. He decides to do some form of, like, pacifying the damage, then I won't Gore Clan. Because why Gore Clan? Well, I don't have to. Tangle. Prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn. Attacking creatures do not untap during a controller's next tap step. Sure. Put out the Qasali Pride Mage and pass. I don't know if Tangle's legal in Modern. I don't really care to check. So I get to draw an extra one, right? Cool. Tribal Flames and Bolt. I like those things. Start combat. Swing. Sure. Holy Day. I think you deserve to be bolted in the face, and you deserve a Tribal Flames while you're tapped out. And I think you deserve not to draw a card. That's what I think. That's my personal opinion. So we're going to go ahead and pull out that Blood Crypt, because we can with our new fetch lands. Whoa! Go to 10. And we're going to bolt you in the face. And we are going to Tribal Flames you in the face. And then we are going to blow up Rites of Furnishing, because at this point we can attack with pretty much anything and kill it. And end. Tarmogoyf, you are so big. Did anyone ever tell you that? You're huge. So, I think it's pretty much over for this guy. I mean, he can... Eventually he's going to draw lands, and he's not going to have enough, like, ways to fog. Now I'm just going to win. He can gain some life, but he's already lost so much life. He could path my Tarmogoyf, but really, what's it gonna do? What's it gonna accomplish? Not very much. Howling Mine, totally okay. I don't mind drawing extra cards, especially if one of them turns out to be a bolt. None of them did. That's fine. Start combat. Swing. So he's going to Snapcaster something. He Snapcasters what? What is he going to Snapcaster? Holy Day? Fine. Seems okay. And then we're just going to go ahead and put out Gorkland Rampager. Because why not? We can. I'm going to be drawing 2 a turn anyways. I'm going to eventually get to a part where it doesn't really matter. I'm either going to draw a Bolt and he's not going to have a way to deal with it. Or I'm going to draw like a Geist and he can't block it. This guy Rampage is over, so that's fine. And we got ourselves a Geist to St. Taft, so that's going to be that. I'm going to go ahead and just start my combat phase. And I really can't see him getting out of this. I mean, he's got a way to null the damage. I can then kill him with the Tribal Flames. Not like a big deal. So that's that. That's Tribal Flames, the new way of getting everything. And get ourselves any mana we want. Like, what are we missing here? Let's get ourselves another blue source, because why not, you know? Why not? We hasn't conceded yet, so we can, in response to him conceding, grab ourselves blue source. So that's it. See how I still managed to get my turn to Temple Steam Vents. Turn 1. Riot Control. Gain 1 life for each. Sure. He gets to go up to 4. Go ahead, man. Now you're dead. Yay, Geist to St. Taft's. Alright, and that's basically it in a nutshell. That's how that works out. So the last 2 decks I'm not actually going to play, because it doesn't change any, like, the mana base gets better, but it doesn't actually change any of the play mechanics or the feel of the deck at all. So the first one I'm going to go over is Gruul Zoo. If this was a Gruul Zoo that I'd be playing, if I wanted to experiment with Gruul Zoo, it's a 4 Burning Tree Emissary, 4 Experiment 1, 4 Flint Hoof Boar, 4 Gorkland Rampager, 4 Goblin Guide, 4 Curdape, 4 Tarmogoyf, 4 Wild Noctowl. Your spells are going to be 4 Lightning Bolt, 2 Path to Exile, as well as 2 Pillars of Flames. Your mana base is going to be 20, so that way you can support, get into a 2 CMC most definitely, and also you can support the Wild Noctowl. The only difference here is that you can relax a little bit on some of your mana requirements. You can only get 1 of each of the White Shocks, and then just go ahead and pull 3 Stomping Grounds. This allows you to have 2 Forests, 1 Mountain, 1 Plains, 4 Arid Mesa, 3 Windswept Heath and 4 Wood Foothills. Just lets you get your green, lets you get your red as you need it, and then your white is just extra that you can grab with any of those on top of it. This deck does get a lot better, more consistent now that you don't really need to worry about your white splash. You can just get it with any of your fetch lands. The big thing here is that you can play Blood Moon. That's if you're gonna, there's gonna be a phase where everyone's gonna be going greed crazy for a little while. You can play Blood Moon and get away with it. It's something I would suggest. Other than that, I've also got mid-range Naya that I work on. I call it mid-range Naya and not Naya Zoo because I don't use like Wild Noctel in mid-range Naya. I know a lot of people do, but my personal feeling is that mid-range Naya should be mid-range and it should not feel like aggro that you're just trying to maybe go to 5 CMC. Just go mid-range. Just go mid-range. So as with this, it's based a little bit on Kibler's Naya mid-range that I liked more personally than any of his other ones, which was the very Planeswalker heavy one. We've got 6 Mana Dorks, 2 Birds of Paradise, 4 Noble Hierarchs. This is going to help you get to your 5 CMC that you're going to try to get to. You're going to run 2 Kusali Pride Mage, 2 Scavenging Ooze because those are really good hate bears, 1 Voice of Resurgence because, hey, why not? He's a good blocker for your Planeswalkers. You can put them out there pretty easy. I needed something in the 2 CMC slot. 4 Tarmogoyf because that's your beater of choice. Again, I'm not using Wild Noctel in this because I don't need it. The Tarmogoyf does what it needs to do, as does the Knight of the Reliquary. With Knight of the Reliquary, I get to have a little bit of a cooler mana base. I also get to mix around my mana base, as you'll see in a bit. I also top it off on my creature curve with 2 Restoration Angels. Restoration Angels, while not so great on Scavenging Ooze, is actually pretty good on a Voice of Resurgence. Pretty good in saving a Tarmogoyf. Very good in saving a Knight of the Reliquary. It also could save some of your birds if you need to. Moving right down, your removal suite is going to be 4 Lightning Bolt, 3 Path to Exile, and 1 Fiery Justice, because Fiery Justice is awesome right now. Fire Justice gets rid of a lot of the rock mid-range decks, gets rid of a lot of the aggro decks like Affinity, helps with it helps with overall just aggro decks like Mono Green Devotion, helps you beat the small Zoo matchup. It's also just really good because then it can also hit Souls, and it can also hit any of the big dudes that are in your way like Tarmogoyf. Topping it off, you got Planeswalkers that you want to protect. 1 Ajani Vengeance, 1 Elspeth, 3 Domri Raid. Again, you can see why this gets better then with Restoration Angel being able to flash into block, Voice of Resurgence being able to be fought with the Domri. And then to top it off, the Sarkhan the Dragon Speakers. I think Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker has a good home here. I honestly do. I think people will say, well, it's not Thundermaw because it can't kill spirits. You know, it's not the pro-white one because it's brain farting here, but the dragon, Stormbreath Dragon, because it's got pro-white. But I think it's actually found a home here with the Planeswalker Naya Zoo, and I really push for this because you've got the best creatures to back it up. His aggressive 4/4 haste is on, and it's actually very, very present in this deck. Him being added removal is also great. I mean, if he just ends up being removal and then attacks for a little while, that's great. It's awesome in the stall. This deck also gains a lot of virtual CA. I mean, when you're running 7 Planeswalkers, you've really got yourself virtual CA. Every turn you can be like, here's a Planeswalker, I've got a Tarmogoyf to block it. You don't have a way to kill my Tarmogoyf? Cool. Here's a Planeswalker, I've got a Tarmogoyf to block it. Alright, you don't have any way to get around it? That's fine. Here is Sarkhan. And I'm also going to bolt your way, your dude that you're going to attack with. I'm going to swing for like 4. I'm gaining, playing like 7 spells a turn because Domri's fighting things. And Johnny's now shooting things, lightning helixing it. I've got Sarkhan who can flame slash if I want to, but also is a 4/4 dragon if I want that too. It's indestructible, which is alright. I mean, it's just, you've got really some of the best aggressive creatures here in this list, some of the best utility, and the best planeswalkers. It's kind of crazy. I really look forward to testing this list more when the more spoilers get released and it becomes more couth to play it online on Cockatrice. So that's it, guys. That's all you really need to know about. Again, with the mana base here that I missed. 3 Arid Misa because it's less important. 2 Forest, 1 Kessig Wolfrun, 1 Mountain, 2 Plains, 1 Raging Ravine, 2 Sacred Foundries, 1 Stirring Wildwood, 1 Stomping Ground, 2 Temple Garden, 4 Windswept Heath, and 4 Wooded Foothills, plus your mana ramp that you've already got. So I think that's a really, really solid mid-range list if you're thinking about something. Anywho, y'all. Nice, we actually got to take that out. There we go. That is the list that I would play if you were going to play mid-range. That was the list I'm going to play if you would play Gruul Zoo, and those are my current lists for Domain Zoo, as well as my normal, just regular Naya Slay Zoo. Thanks for watching.